If somebody tells something TMI, so yeah, so it's good. So it's very fun. It seems like everybody's smiling and had a good. I'm sure everybody had a good introduction. I'd be happy who has the armpits with the pink tutus. Anybody here? Nope? Okay, cool. All right. So I just want to share my own engagement story in my story in Mozilla. So I'm going to want to share this photo. So this was taken in China around 2010. And I was on vacation, and I knew that we were going to the Great Wall of China. So it's a very massive location. And when I was there, I specifically made sure I had brought my Mozilla t-shirt. So this is not the same shirt, obviously, but I made sure that I brought my Mozilla shirt because I wanted to make sure that I would take a photo on the Great Wall of China doing something weird or funny or whatever. So at the spur of the moment, I asked my wife to say, hey, just take a photo of me. I'm just going to do a kung fu kick. And she did. So I shared this. And I didn't share it on my personal social network. I shared it in our community blog. And this, at that time, during that year, this became one of the more shared and popular photos in our Mozilla community blog. So think about that for a second. So there was on my personal trip, but I wanted to make sure I did something for the community. So if you have that in your own open source project, like people on their own time think about your open source project in that way, wouldn't that be great? So in my story, I actually started contributing to Mozilla when I was still in the Philippines. And fast forward to 6 years now, I'm still doing the same thing here in Toronto. So as you can see, how did that happen? How did a person doing something from the other side of the globe move to a new city and still keep doing that? So there has to be something in the way it's set up that makes it possible and have people thrive in that situation. So that's what this talk is going to be about. So from my personal experiences and how I've been doing this with the Mozilla reps in the Mozilla community. So I've been speaking about Mozilla. So this is the Mozilla room, apparently, in this event. And I'm sure everybody here has heard of Mozilla. Yes? Anybody who hasn't heard of Mozilla? I'm going to go out of this room if you haven't. Okay, so Mozilla, yes. So let's do another quick activity, because I want to test, because since everybody here is a techie person, an open source person, I just want to test, and let's play a quick game of Mozilla Bingo. So I'm going to give you 1 minute. I hope everybody has a small piece of paper. I'm going to give you 1 minute to write as much terms or keywords you can think about in Mozilla. And then I'm going to show you a grid later, and a person who can make a pattern from that grid will receive a special prize. All right, so I'm going to give you 1 minute. Just write anything you know about Mozilla, like one word, keywords, or phrases that you think about Mozilla. And a good example would be Firefox. So you're going to write that down. Or you say something about a browser. Just write it down. I'll give you a minute. I'll give you 1 minute to do that. And then I'm going to show you the grid after. And if somebody creates, because it's a 4x4 grid, so anybody who creates the straight line, horizontal, or diagonal, or you'll get a special prize. So it has to be four keywords in a row. So I hope I had some. I'm going to start my timer now. Okay, 1 minute. Think Mozilla. Think way, way back. Think everything you know about Mozilla. Even people, even projects, significant events, significant products, anything meta pertaining to Mozilla. Last 30 seconds. You must be wondering, what's the prize? It's going to be awesome. It's going to be worth your minute for sure. And then I'm going to give you a minute to look at the grid. And if you create a pattern, just shout, bingo. Okay. Say bingo. The last 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So here's the grid. See if you had created a pattern. So keywords that I chose: Firefox, Firefox OS, Godzilla, Thunderbird, community, nonprofit, open source, dinosaur, 1998, Netscape, webmaker, free software, Gecko, Mozilla Reps, browser wars, Phoenix. No? No pattern? What's the longest string that you were able to create? 2? Anybody made 2? Somebody made 2? 3? Who got 3? Okay. Forgot dinosaur. Who got another 3?
Netscape, open source, and Thunderbird.
Oh, and you were stumped by Gecko. So yeah, so Mozilla is, these are some of the keywords. It's too bad nobody won. The prize would have been very awesome. But these are keywords that you often associate with Mozilla. So Mozilla is a nonprofit organization, and it's the steward for one of the most successful open source projects of all time, which is Mozilla Firefox. And it stemmed from the Netscape organization in the late 1990s. And you know, some terms that were floated around, like Godzilla, the dinosaur head, the dino head in the logo before, and you know, Phoenix was the code name for Firefox before it launched. Yeah, so these are some of the stuff. So if you haven't heard of Mozilla, so this is a good test of what Mozilla does. And this talk will primarily revolve around my experiences contributing around Mozilla. So, and I want to go back maybe almost 20 years ago, and you can't talk about Mozilla without talking about the browser wars. So what happened then was IE was dominating the browser market share. Firefox came into the fold and just changed the game. So if you look at the current browsers right now, you see Chrome, Firefox, IE/Edge, Opera. I'm not sure if they're still around. Are they? Yeah, they are still. And Safari. So if you look at all of these browsers, from my point of view, there's one thing that makes Firefox unique. If you look at Google, there's Microsoft, Opera, and Apple. Almost all of those browsers have one major corporate organization backing that browser. And the thing is with the browser, it's a relatively free market. It's when you want to get a browser, just download it for free. So for these corporate backers to support those browsers, it's huge for those browsers, obviously. But for Mozilla, which is really a nonprofit and smaller compared to Google, Microsoft, and Apple, there's one thing that really has it going for that for Firefox, and that is community. It's the people that contributes to make Firefox and Mozilla a success, and hopefully you could do that with your project as well. So that is the one thing that makes Firefox in this set of browsers. That's the one thing that makes it unique. And from my point of view, without the community, Firefox is just a piece of software. That's not too different from all these other browsers. So why is community good from a open source point of view? It's very essential because obviously you want people to contribute, and you want people to participate, and you want people to add stuff, their own stuff into your own project. Because from my point of view and the way I see it, open source runs on goodwill. If you don't have that, your project might as well fold, right? Or you can do it by yourself. But if you don't have this goodwill, this is what fuels open source projects, from Linux all the way to the smaller open projects right now. That's the one common thread that you will see in open source projects that have succeeded. So let me talk about Mozilla Reps. So I've been talking about Mozilla, I've been talking about community. So let me talk about my own program in the Mozilla ecosystem, or the Mozilla universe. So Mozilla Reps is a volunteer program within Mozilla community. So think of it as a small unit inside Mozilla, and it's a place where community members and volunteers and staff members work together to do a variety of things, like organizing events, managing social media, testing, localization, and all those functions. So Mozilla Reps was started in 2010, and I was one of the very first Mozilla Reps that have joined. So before Mozilla Reps, I was just a regular community member doing community management for the Philippine community. But when Mozilla Reps started, it was really a program that was an intentional group to do those functions. So what's a similar analog? It would be something like an ambassador program in other open source projects. If this were a for-profit organization, these would be, Mozilla Reps would be similar to agents. So in my experience, I used to work for Avon, and Avon is, who hasn't heard of Avon here? No? Avon is a cosmetics company that became very popular and became successful because of Avon ladies. So Avon ladies who go to house to house, pitching their wares, and they're not employees of Avon. They're considered agents, or people who go from place to place and reaching out to new customers. So Mozilla Reps function the same way. So how does Mozilla Reps empower volunteers? So it gives trusted volunteers access and resources. So imagine there's somebody, a community member in Bangladesh, and they want to help your project, and they want to create an event for their community to localize their software for their dialect. So what Mozilla Reps does is that if you are a member of the Mozilla Reps program, you'll be able to request for funds. You'll be able to request resources like maybe swag and marketing tools to promote your event. And you'll be given an array of software to get people more involved, like how do you, there's a site, there's a portal where you can post your events, and you can post and invite people to join your event. It also provides support and mentorship. The way it's set up, I'll go into this to detail later, but there is a level of mentorship and when you join a Mozilla Rep. So there are people who have been in the community long enough, like myself. I've been around for 6 years. And if there's somebody who wants to join now, say here in the Toronto community, I will be sort of like referred to that person and help that person do the community work. So that's how it's set up. And it's very organic. It depends on how much help the newbie or the new rep wants, but the way it's set up, there is a mentor that's going to be assigned to you as you do your Mozilla Rep work. And then finally, it's a path towards skill and personal and professional development. So there's a lot of skill buildings involved. So in my case, I became a Mozilla Rep around 2010. I actually became a mentor around 2011. And I was actually part of the Mozilla Reps Council, more to that later, for a few years. And that leadership position in the Mozilla Reps helped me become a better CEO / co-founder in my own startup. When you're working with developers and when you're working with having that sort of higher level thinking beyond your product, the Mozilla Reps was very instrumental in giving me that. So if you have questions on that aspect, like founding your company and how that related to my own experience with Mozilla Reps, then I'd be happy to answer that later. So why is the Mozilla Reps program working? So what are the ingredients, at least from my point of view, why the Mozilla Reps is working as a volunteer program and as a empowerment vehicle for volunteers? One, it has support from the top. So leaders in Mozilla recognize that Mozilla Reps is a key component of community engagement, and I believe it was in 2013, 2014, Mozilla Reps was actually mentioned in the annual report. So it is very huge to get recognized that way. Second is it has structure. So I'll be talking about that in a bit. I have a graphic I wanted to show you. So Mozilla Reps has structure in terms of organization structure, making those requests. So there is a foundation of making those things happen. So it's easier for people to join, and it's not as bureaucratic. And third is the quality of people. So the thing with Mozilla Reps is it's a subset of a larger community. So when you say community, it's everybody who's contributing to Mozilla, everybody who's doing localization, everybody who's pushing code or contributing code, anybody who's sharing something in social media. Within that universe of contributors are the Mozilla Reps, people who want to progress in their contributions and they want to do more and they want to have access to a lot more set of resources. It takes us from that pool of volunteers. So you can imagine that if you had already reached becoming a rep, that means you are very motivated, you're very passionate about Mozilla, you want to contribute, you probably have friends, and you know people within the community who want to, who have the same interests as you. So what I wanted to do is give you 5 minutes to look at this very complicated graphic. Apologies, it's very heavy, but what it illustrates is the structure of the Mozilla Reps. So what is the Mozilla Rep structure? So as I was talking about, at the bottom of that graphic is the universe of Mozilla contributors, and Mozilla Reps is a subset of that. The leadership of the Mozilla Reps program has what we call a council, which is composed of volunteers, and which is 7, and 2 paid staff from Mozilla. And then within that leadership are the mentors. So let that sink in for a second. So this is a volunteer program, majority led by volunteers. It's not like, there's a couple of people there that are from Mozilla staff. They're Mozilla staff, and they have provide direction, recommendations. But these council members are the leadership of the volunteer base in Mozilla. So that is a very good picture of empowerment. And these council members, how do they become council members? They get elected. So there is a sort of democracy happening in that scheme as well. So how this becomes empowering is that you push your own volunteers up to the leadership, and then they help shape the experience and how they can contribute to your own organization goals. So I want to give you 5 minutes to reflect and think about, maybe you have a piece of paper or in your laptop. These are the 3 key ingredients in the Mozilla Reps program that makes it work. So there's organizational support, there is a structure, although it's not, it's very complicated. And third are the people. What are the kind of people that are best suited to become your open source contributors? Because not as much as you want everybody to join and be part of your movement, the reality is there is a certain type of person, a certain group, a certain persona that is best suited for your open source project. So I'll give you 5 minutes to work on a something similar so that you'll have some takeaways after this talk, for this talk. So maybe think about your project, think about your own experiences, and think about how you can create that organizational support, and how can you convince the leadership in your project to get volunteers involved and make that pathway possible. And think about the structure. How do you make sure that the power users, but how do you make sure that the very passionate ones, the very passionate volunteers move up the ranks? Because the worst thing is that I'm here, I'm contributing, I'm just doing my thing. And if I want to move up, or if I want to do more, I am held back by some structural or process, a process in place in your project that prevents me from doing more. And finally, think about the people who's best suited for your project. So are they tech-savvy people? Are they more into a specific language, more specific technology? Are they more of like an advocate type of person? Or are they more of like, they just want to contribute in their own small way, pushing code on GitHub and all that development work. Okay, so maybe a couple more minutes. Just scribble it down. So I put my timer. All right. Cool. Yeah, so maybe you can work on that. Yeah, we can probably finish that if you haven't finished. We continue that later. All right. So I've been talking about Mozilla Reps and how nice it is, but what are the challenges? It's not all perfect. It's not all unicorns and rainbows. What are the challenges that after 5 years in the program that I'm seeing and observing as somebody from the inside? First is the scalability. So this is a global program. There are around 400 reps in 80 plus countries right now. How do you manage that? How do you make sure that everybody's contributing, right? And there's also an issue of distribution. Who could guess where the most number of reps are from? I told you there are 400 reps globally in 80 plus countries. Who can give me a guess where the most number of reps are from? A country. Guess a country. UK. I'm sorry? UK? Nope, not UK. Not Brazil, not China? Canada. No, not Canada. Last one more guess? United States. No, it's not. It's India. India is the place where most reps are coming from. And the thing is, distribution-wise, they're probably taking into account, I don't know the exact numbers, but there are 400 people. They probably are almost 10% of the program. They're a lot. And from a scalability point of view, in India, there isn't any Mozilla, we'd say, corporate entity based there. So then it becomes a problem. There is some issue of really the community running itself. And from an open source point of view, that is great. That is very great. I would like my communities to be autonomous, and I want them to be self-sustaining. But at the same time, how do you make sure that they're aligned with what you want to do, and they're supporting your goals? And I'll get to some of the real world stuff later, especially with the local communities. Next would be oversight. So you could imagine, as I told you a while ago, Mozilla reps are given resources, and a lot of them are material resources, some of them are financial resources. So I give you money. So question, how do I make sure that the money that we're giving you are being used for its intended purpose? I'll give you a story. I won't name the local community, but we had a rep who, because what we do, we basically file a request saying, hey, I'm organizing an event for localization. I would like $500 to support that event. So what happened was he made a request. It was, when you make a request, it has to be like very comprehensive. So he gave a very comprehensive request. And after the event, you had to give photos, like a post-event report. Like, this is what happened. Here are the photos. So it's kind of proof that you did what you claimed. But we got a report from somebody from the community that the person was elaborately staging fake events. So he got his friends like, okay guys, I'll take photos. Imagine you're doing some coding and I'm going to submit this, blah, blah, blah. So that was an issue. And that was dealt with, obviously, but that was one of those very rare occurrences of misrepresentation in the organization. Because like I said, Mozilla Reps is a large program, 400 volunteers in a global community. And if that country doesn't really have a Mozilla presence, the community becomes Mozilla. Like in my case, when we started the Philippines community 6 years ago, Mozilla doesn't have an office in the Philippines. So when people have questions about Mozilla, their go-to people are actually people from the community. And we had to do our best to be very, on point when it comes to issues when they have questions. Because if it becomes a larger question, then we will refer them to head office in California. So there's an oversight issue, or at least challenge, on certain pockets of the community. So third, challenge would be measuring impact. So like I said, we're organizing events, we're organizing outreach, but the bottom line is how do we make sure that what we're doing actually helps Mozilla in the grand scheme of things, like just being more specific, like Firefox or WebMaker events. Like, how do we track that people who attend our events download Firefox or actually become contributors, or they actually become, they participate in some capacity? There is, and given, like I said, the scale and the magnitude of what we're doing, sometimes it's hard. And you have to figure out what are the key metrics. Is attendance a key metric? Is social media tweets and postings a key metric? So there are still discussions and conversations happening about how do you measure the impact and how do you do that. And finally, the challenge that I'm seeing is the program is starting to show its age. What do I mean by that? When we started around 2010, you'll see the membership in applications, it was really exponential. It was really like it went hockey stick, like it was really quiet and then boom, around 2011, applications and reps membership shot up. But in the last year or so, it has plateaued. So what is that telling us? It's telling us that maybe we've reached the critical, the mass or the number of people who are really doing this. And so if we have reached that, how do we get back that exponential growth? What do we need to do with the program to get more people? Or do we need to create a new program for that? So there are some conversations about that as well. So those are some of the challenges and issues that we are facing. So if you want to take away some of my personal experiences with community building, I still want to share you some quick stories on what you could do and learn from from what I have done prior. So to become a good community manager, you have to relate. So Mozilla is a community of global community of many volunteers, and sometimes you fall into a trap like my community is better than your community, or I'm better than you because you're from a community that is probably socially lower in terms of wealth or development. And sometimes that you come to that mindset, like you could dismiss some people and put them in a box. And you have to avoid that. And you try to relate. And the good thing about Mozilla Reps as an event is we do try to make sure that everybody's treated with an equal footing. And yeah, so just try to relate to other people. And don't try to think that you're better than somebody. Listening is also very important. As a community person, this was very highlighted around a few years ago. If you hadn't heard, the then CEO of Mozilla, Brendan Eich, he stepped down because of some issues relating to a controversy relating to gender issues, and it was a firestorm from all, especially from the community, because it was highlighted in the media. When there are small issues in the community, like a small spat or that, it doesn't get highlighted. But that one was one of the larger polarizing issues in the community. And from where I sat then, it was really tough because there were some people who liked the person but didn't agree with his politics. There were some people who were more aligned with his beliefs or for what he did, but they didn't care much for the person. And then there were some people who just said, who had thoughts on Mozilla as an organization as a whole. So we tried our best to listen and try to accommodate people's views, because for a lot of times people just wanted to be heard, and you don't need to do anything because Mozilla. You could look at Wikipedia and how they dealt with that episode, but from a community point of view, being able to listen and try to just, what are your thoughts? We had meetings, virtual ones, to let people air out their grievances and their opinions or their thoughts on that incident. So it was very important, and we did lose some people who, I'm swearing off. I'm never joining Mozilla or whatever. But again, we could have lost more if we didn't do a lot of listening and try to relate to other people too. So illicit. So in a community like as diverse as Mozilla, people have ideas, very good ideas, and most of the time they don't get shared because people are just shy, they're quiet. Culturally, they are predisposed to just sitting in a corner and not sharing anything. We try to make sure that people's voices are heard. They contribute in meetings, even in physical ones. We try to make sure that if you have anything to say, please share. We try to give people some time to gather their thoughts and share their opinions and ideas. And it's probably easier in virtual meetings or IRC. They can just chat whatever ideas they have. But we make sure that everybody's voices are heard. And like I said, sensitivity part, I'm not going to elaborate on this one further, but imagine in a global community like Mozilla, you have a large group of people with diverse beliefs, cultures, and you just have to be very sensitive about that and try not to overstep or try not to alienate people systematically. Practical ones. Have regular meetings. Like I said, it could be IRC, it could be Skype, Hangouts. This rhythm makes the community have a habit, like a common habit for everybody. Even if you have just 3 people in the meeting, have the meeting. Even if you're just going to say, you don't have any updates, even if it's an IRC, you have to have like this, this rhythm as a community together, so that when people come in and join, it's sort of like a natural cadence. Like every Thursday around 11 a.m. Eastern time, everybody in the Mozilla Ops program, we have a call. So anybody who is free and who would like to join, you just join. And we have the council leading, chairing those meetings, and they have an agenda prepared. So you always have something to talk about. But having that regular meeting, even if it's not, if it's not a lot of people, just do it. It'll be better for the community in the long run. And finally, remember the big picture. Just remember why you're doing what you're doing as a community, and why people are there. Why are people motivated to help and pitch in? Because in Mozilla, people have a diverse set of motivations, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, whether it's they just want to do it for the heck of it. Just remember that they're there for a reason, and try to make sure that people are happy and motivated and contributing. Okay, so let's test what we have discussed. Well, I'm going to show you a couple of mini case studies. You can work with your pairs. Just discuss maybe for a couple of minutes. And let's do a quick mini case study. Then I'll probably ask people, what they're going to do in this case. So these are just very quick cases. So here's one. So in your mailing list, there's an anonymous poster criticizing your organization/project, most of which are sound arguments. Again, nothing is perfect, right? But that honest person, is also hurling derogatory remarks about other members in the community. So what do you do? So you can chat with your partner. There's no right or wrong answer. So I'm just curious, because these are some of the real issues or common issues that you'll face when you are managing or at least dealing with community. So yeah, maybe spend a minute chatting with your pair, your partner, and think about what are you going to do in this situation. I'm gonna cold call somebody, what their thoughts are. Just 1 minute. You'll be surprised. This is one of the more, let's say, the more tamer cases.
Obviously, I guess the first thing is just remove the post, right?
All right, minute is up. So who would like to share maybe their other thoughts into in this case? What would you do if you were the community person doing this? I saw a nice discussion over here. So would like maybe a quick line or two?
Well, we were saying that it's an anonymous poster, so not much you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, most of it, I just think you have to ignore it pretty much. But since the mailing list, also you can't really remove the post.
Mm-hmm. So just keep the status quo. Don't do anything. That's what I heard.
Yeah, but then also we were saying that if you don't do anything, then other community members are gonna see that you're the higher ups aren't doing anything about it, and they might complain.
Okay. Yeah. Other thoughts on this side of the room? Yeah.
Well, regardless if it's anonymous or a real poster, if their arguments are valid, ask them to bring it up in a certain different manner, or say that, okay, maybe these are the things you can work on, or if you ask for strength, and it's compared to the remarks on the other members, you make a clear cut that these are not you have an issue, please raise it at a certain different channel that you have set up.
Good, very sound. Last thought, last idea?
You want to allow anonymous posting.
That's a good, yeah, those are some of, again, this is based off a real life situation that we've encountered. So that's a good, that was one of the, yes, before I.
You have to respond to it and address it in a certain term.
Yes, but there was, again, related to the person over there's points, like, it was hard, it was based on a situation where there was really a lot of, the person was really posting good, very valid criticisms about Mozilla and organization. But he never used his real name or her real name and kept on posting those issues. And it was really tough because then people thought, why is this allowed? Like, why are we even allowing anonymous postings? Should we ban anonymous postings? And people said, not really, because this is good feedback. It just so happened this guy is pissed with other community members, and some are even saying that he was the claims or the allegations weren't even true. So it's, again, there's no right or wrong answer here, but in terms of what happened, thankfully the email stopped, but what happened was the committee actually responded to that person, to that email, and they said, you know, this is, if you want to bring this up to in a proper channel, then yes, we could do it. But you can't do it anonymously because who knows what, because from the allegations that were posed, a lot of them were not true. So it was really tough. But yeah.
If you get rid of everybody with derogatory remarks, you would lose Linus apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have to take care for people's freedom of expression as well. So it's a balancing act for sure. But what happened was this is based again on a real life case on what happened in terms of community. So we have our second and last mini case study is a bit harder. So this is the case. So your organization, as per legal requirements, you can only work with volunteers who are over 18. So Selena is from Colombia. She has been one of your most active local event organizers. You received word somehow that said that she's only actually 16, and that was published in her passport. So after email exchange and clarifying with Selena, she said that she is actually 18 and she falsified her passport for travel purposes. What do you do? Again, this is based on a real situation. So feel free to chat with your partner and discuss what you think would be your plan of action. Like I said, the only constant here is that as per legal requirements, you can only work with 18 people of 18 and above. Yeah, so there. So what would you do? Definitely not as simple as the first case. Okay. Yeah, I'm done. This is the last one. Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, the only yeah, exactly. So, and then really weird about that too. So, like, honestly, I have to say, or find somebody who's 18 or above and or you can just get do work for you, but you're like the back end. Because yeah. But you have to, but you can't just, you can't be, yeah. Because if you're, yes, yeah.
Last 20 seconds.
It would depend on the legal area, but.
All right, anybody who would like to share what they're gonna do? Vote from this group. Come on. I heard some. Yeah.
Yeah, we said that she would have to prove that she's guilty, and if she can't do that, then obviously then just let her go because like the legality of it is really outside of our control.
Okay. Fair enough. Good. Other. I'm going to share what's the update on this one. Yes.
Well, I was just going to say you could do something positive, but direct her to a different role. That it is possible to have her work below the age of 18. It's trying to do something negative is the wrong spin on it, even though you have to get her out of that role.
Yeah. Okay. So this is, I don't know the answer here because this is an ongoing situation, but this is very loosely based on that. Somebody below the age, as per in the Mozilla reps, that person is under a certain age, and that person was, is a very active contributor, and this is pending. So the many steps: do we keep the person in? Which documentation do we take? It's still happening, but yeah, as per legal requirements, there is a risk that if things go bad, for example, that person can just conveniently use the falsified passport. Hey, I'm not 18, blah blah blah. So there's a risk there. So we can discuss the discussion after over lunch, but just want to quickly recap what we discussed so far. So Mozilla Reps provides a path for contribution and empowerment in the community. Remember the three things that make Mozilla Reps successful: support, the structure, and the people. And be aware of the challenges, and just try to have an open mind and keep listening. So I also invite you to, if you haven't, volunteer with Mozilla. You can go to the contributions screen. Just search volunteer Mozilla in Google or go to the Mozilla website, and you will see this page where you can see all the contribution opportunities and the way you can get involved. So thank you very much. I hope you had fun in our hour-ish time. And I'd be happy to chat with you about community building over lunch or after event. And yeah, thank you.